going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship. Today, at the request of Lord Wyman Manderley, we're cracking open our copy of Inner Sea Gods. We're going to talk about one of Paizo's core deities, Urgathoa. As always, if you guys have any requests, throw them in the comments. Today, this episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship was brought to you in part by our newest patron, Emeralda Seone of the End of Planar Crossroads. That means I've got 3 of you now working for me, or giving money towards the cause. Both are great, and my quest to eat your channel for breakfast continues. Speaking of breakfast, by the by, at 400 subscribers, Emmy's running a one-shot at IOPC, which will be breakfast-themed. Yeah, don't bring your edgelords, it'll be bad. But do follow this card right up here. And remember, if you guys aren't subscribed to the End of Planar Crossroads, we can't be friends. Now let's dive in. Okay, so on planet Earth, several gods exist in Greek mythology that pertain to things like excess. Dionysus, his son Comus, even farther the goddess Adiphagia, the literal personification of gluttony, though she's only mentioned in one place. They definitely existed. Eat, drink, and be merry, because literally tomorrow we're going to eat, drink, and be merry, because the next day we're doing the same thing. Repeat until you throw up, then go again. Mix this in with things like Hades and your general gods of death throughout all of mythology, and you have Urgathoa. Urgathoa is the personification of gluttony, so much so that she is utterly amoral and hedonistic. She's a goddess concerned with satiating her own desires regardless of the consequences anyone suffers. She strives for experience and a full appreciation of the world, not unlike several of the more not necromancy-esque gods, but her appreciation is utterly selfish. Once upon a time, she was a mortal woman with a tremendous appetite, and she rebelled against the notion of being judged by Pharasma and losing the joy of living. In death, somehow, she found the strength to tear herself from Pharasma's endless line of souls and return to Galarian. Yeah, I've learned after watching the Against the Aeon Throne preview, it's Galarian, not Galarion. I'm sorry, everyone. I've been the worst ever. And in the process, she became not only a divine being, but the first ever undead creature. Her existence, of course, is a corruption of the natural order. Some say her divine footprints upon the soil of the material plane birthed plague and infection, and that the first shadows and wraiths were born of her breath. Of course, you also can find that the shadows came from Zon-Kuthon and Abadar as well. That's an entirely different story. Follow this card right up here. We'll direct you to Zon-Kuthon so you can see, but, you know, the creepy dudes with too many piercings in their face. I think 2 is just fine, me personally with my snake bites. Feel about this, regardless. Urgathoa's half-rotted form limits, obviously, the sensations she can experience, so she makes up for this with gluttonous depravity. She's tasted the brains of human infants to savor the innocents, torn the hearts from the last living members of races just to feel the sensation of its hot blood on her hands, and inflicted boils and leprosy upon handsome princes just to see the unique patterns they form on royal flesh. To her, the dull existence of a dead soul is pointless and tedious, compared to the vibrant intensity of mortal or undead sensation, and creatures should cram as much sensation into existence as possible. Things like aestheticism are repugnant to her, and she particularly loathes those who follow such strict taboos. Urgathoa is usually depicted, as you see, as a beautiful, raven-haired woman from the waist up, much like her mortal self, though she's as pale as a hungry vampire. Her lower half is rotted and withered, decaying farther down until only blood-covered bones remain at her feet. When she walks, she leaves bloody skeletal footprints, and although she sometimes manifests nude in the faithful's visions, she usually appears wearing a sheer red or black gown. On rare occasions, she assumes a monstrous shape, similar to those of the hideous undead creatures known as the Daughters of Urgathoa, which is her unique monster you can find in Inner Sea Gods. Now, Urgathoa is neutral evil. Her domains are death, evil, magic, strength, and war, with the subdomains blood, cannibalism, corruption, daemon, divine, ferocity, murder, plague, with the death parentheses and evil parentheses, self-realization, strength, shadow death, and undead. Her favorite weapon is the scythe, and her symbol is a skull-decorated fly. And to perform her obedience, cover a table, or suitable flat surface, with a black velvet cloth, and spread a feast atop it. If you're in the wilderness or another area where fine food is not readily available, load the table with the best quality food you can find in whatever amount you have. Eat to the point of painful fullness, sipping wine between dishes and reciting a prayer to Urgathoa. At the end of this hour, consume a piece of rotten fruit, rancid meat, moldy cheese, or other spoiled something or other. Trust in Urgathoa to protect you from any sickness or disease that might follow, and in return you treat your caster level as 1 higher when casting necromancy spells. Seems good? I've never played a necromancer in Pathfinder. I've GM'd for them, and I definitely would like to. And as the goddess of necromancy, it's only fitting that she's the one that gives you the most bang for your buck here, right? Evangelist boons grant us Curse Water 3 times a day, Feast of Ashes twice a day, or Contagion once a day. At 16th level, your knowledge of the arcane workings of death increases. Your familiar can teach you 1 new spell from either the death or magic domain spell list. The spell must be a level you can cast, and once you choose the spell, your selection can't be changed. If you cast spells from a spellbook, you learn a new spell in the same manner, though it appears magically in your spellbook. If you cast spontaneously, you can choose 1 spell to add to your list of spells known, but you gain no additional spell slots. And at 20th level, your Blight Hex, so literally this is just for the witches and shamans out there, or anybody else who might have hexes, I guess like a Hexcrafter Magus, anyway, gains power from Urgathoa's favor. If you use your Blight Hex on a plot of land, you can affect an area whose radius is equal to 20 times your combined Witch and Evangelist levels. If you blight a creature of the animal or plant type, increase the saving throw by 4, and the curse's effect to 2 points of con damage per day. That's a thing. If the target successfully saves against your Blight Hex, it instead takes 3d6 points of negative energy damage. If you don't have access to the Blight Hex, you instead gain the ability to use Mass Fester once per day as a spell-like ability, so that's pretty neat. I don't necessarily think that Pathfinder 1st Edition's witches need any real buffs, because that's probably the strongest full caster in Pathfinder 1st Edition, is the one that can pass out fortune, misfortune, and slumber. It's gross, it's almost unfair, but buffing the hexes that are a little less powerful and a little more flavorful seems super good to me, so yeah, we'll take it. Exalted boons. Inflict light wounds 3 times a day, desecrate twice a day, or animate dead once a day. At 16th level, when you channel negative energy to heal undead creatures, you infuse the targets with negative energy made more powerful by Urgathoa's influence. Any undead creatures healed by your channeled energy increase their movement speed by 10 feet for a round for every hit dice you possess. And at 20th level, the Pallid Princess's servants have taken notice of your deeds and answer your call. Once per day as a standard action, you can summon a Buta to serve you. You gain telepathy with it, it follows your commands. If you're not neutral evil, it might attack you, blah. We can probably miss this one. The Buta is CR 11. You can get it a little faster through the Exalted Prestige class, but anyway, Sentinel boons. Magic Missile thrice a day, Acid Arrow twice a day, Fireball once a day. Seems good. Blasterific. At 16th level, you have trained exclusively with Urgathoa's deadly favored weapon, and with many related weapons, and you wield them with the skill of the Pallid Princess's most favored undead champions. If you select the Heavy Blades group for your weapon training class feature, increase your attack and damage bonuses with Heavy Blades by 1. If you don't have the weapon training class feature, you instead gain a +1 bonus on attack and damage rolls with the scythe only. That's not bad. Fighters swinging heavy blades get a buff, Urgathoa and war priests who are swinging scythes for way more than they have any business swinging them for, and then animating dead to make some zombies and things. Ooh, I think there's the build right there. Get a buff to hit that stacks wonderfully with things like Fate's Favorite, like all of our war priests anyway. Disgusting. I like it. 20th level. You have spent too much time among the unliving to be taken in by their tricks and abilities, and you are proof against many of their powers. Increase your bravery saving throw bonus by 1. This bonus now applies to saving throws against any spells and effects generated by the undead, as well as fear effects. This bonus also applies to non-magical effects generated by undead creatures, such as a death web's poison. If you don't have the bravery class feature, instead you get a +2 profane bonus on saving throws against spells and effects generated by undead. not bad in certain campaigns. Not bad in general to have a +1 to your bravery saves if you're a fighter who didn't archetype and get away from bravery, because like every fighter archetype pretty much retrains bravery. Because like every fighter archetype pretty much retrains bravery. I like it though. This definitely feels like what the War Priest wants to take. All of these are pretty strong. If nothing else, grab the +1 to your necromancy powers, animate more undead, enervate more things, you know, stack all the things together for value and maybe even blight the land. But of course, we're not done yet. Urgathoa is neutral evil. She's within 1 step of CE, so she's got that Anti-Paladin code and it reads as such. The grave opens to us all. We hasten the living on their inevitable path. The deathless are the true expression of existence, for they are beyond life and death. I will emulate their ways and destroy those who would defile their timeless perfection. I have no duty but to my hunger and my goddess. Existence is hunger. Both life and death feed on life. I am an instrument of transition. That makes it sound a lot nicer than I'm gonna eat all the things and kill all the things. That's very well put together. That's the most charismatic neutral evil I've ever read in my whole life. One could interpret the third tenet as go to Taco Bell and then eat too much of it, as much as they could interpret go to the nearest orphanage and eat too much of it. Anyway, now I'm hungry for Taco Bell. Let's forget about that and talk about planar adventures and the divine gift Urgathoa hands out. Remember, these are 100% GM fiat. They're passed out when you do particularly good things for your god or goddess. Urgathoa's gift, the recipient dies, oh that sucks, and rises at the next sunset or after 12 hours, whichever comes first, but never in a situation that would result in the gift being granted during the day. As a vampire, okay, that doesn't suck. That's boom, vampire, right there. Super strong. At the GM's discretion, you can use something like the Jiangshi or the Nosferatu, as opposed to the standard vampire template. If the character is already a vampire, he doesn't suffer any of the traditional vampire weaknesses. Think sunlight or the ability to not cross running water or having to knock on doors and ask politely before going into the orphanage and eating all the children for 24 hours. Dang, that's super good. I can just hear all the players who cry for templates now in the back of my head, just, Tommy, 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 can I be a vampire? How can I be a vampire? Make me a vampire. I want to be a vampire. Let's play a vampire game. Urgathoa. And to be honest, if we're playing in an Urgathoan game, that's probably what's going on. If you're not a vampire, you might be a ghoul, you might be a grave knight, you might be a ghost, any kind of sentient undead, because that's the jam. If you're not undead, you worship them, you want to become them. Undead, in your opinion, are the definition of perfection. And in a way, they kind of are, because you never die until the paladins break down the door, but that's what your scythe is for. And honestly, I've been kind of itching to GM an evil campaign for a really long time. I've GM'd for evil characters in good parties, I've GM'd for evil characters in neutral parties, and if I were to play an Urgathoan character again, a War Priest seems really good with those Sentinel boons. Retain my spells, make some undead minions, while also being super good with a scythe. Prayer becomes a lot stronger when you're spamming it, as War Priests are wont to do, when you have a bunch of little minions that can also benefit from it, and you're benefiting more because you took Fate's Favored. Swing the scythe, let the ghouls you reanimate, feast on the flesh of the living. I love it. What do you guys think about Urgathoa? Have you played a character who worshipped her? Have you played a sentient undead in the Pathfinder RPG? And how do you feel about necromancy in Pathfinder 1st Edition? Let me know all about it in the comments below. Again, we'll keep the conversation going. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of Wednesday Afternoon Worship, where we've got another core deity from Pathfinder coming down. Again, assuming my patrons don't cut the line as they are wont to do, it's Abadar. And it drops next Wednesday.